Welcome to Freelance Sucks. Here we discuss the dark side of freelancing about which nobody usually talks out loud. In this show, we speak with experienced freelancers, and I'm sure listening to their stories helps you prepare for freelancers' challenges. My name is Yuri, I'm a community builder at Code Control and 9am.works, and my guest is Rachel Rozen, the connection catalyst who transforms professional networking from icky to sticky and helps a diverse clientele from established Fortune 500 companies to dynamic tech startups and solopreneurs to conquer fears, sow their seeds, and nurture a network that significantly boosts their net worth. So, welcome, Rachel.
Thanks, Siri. Happy to be here today.
And let's start with the easiest question. For
All
you,
right.
as a freelancer, what is the most challenging part of being a freelancer?
I think the hardest part is having consistent clients because that is never, I don't think that's ever going to happen to anybody unless you get that golden client. But that you're always looking for that next opportunity to work with someone. You're always striving to meet more people so that there are always opportunities for you. And I think that's really the biggest struggle.
What do you do to make this process like plus minus more consistent?
So I've only been in my business now for about a year and a half. And what I've been focusing on in the last 6 to 8 months, I called my first year zero. And now I'm actually in year one because you're always learning, right? I every month I do a free webinar for
Hmm.
people to learn about my how I actually coach people around networking and also to gain tips, and people can come as many times as they want. But it's a great way for an introduction to understand what I do and how I could potentially help or serve you as an individual, or the opportunity for someone to bring me into their organization to talk to their team, to do a workshop, to do a talk, something of that nature. And then the other thing is doing things like this, being on podcasts. The more people hear me speak and what I talk about, and the more it's out there in the world, then I do feel that more clients will come my way because people see how I talk about it. And people want to work with people that they know, like, and trust. And so if what I'm talking about resonates with you, then you're more likely to reach out and say, "Hey, Rachel, how could I work with you? Or how could you help me in getting better at networking?"
Are you doing the same webinar every month or are those different webinars? I mean, with the
The same,
content.
yeah, it's the same content every month. I'm always tweaking it because I'm always having new ideas for myself or how I want to deliver something. So it does change little by little, but it's still the same content. But I've had people that have come multiple times, and every time
Mm.
they learn something new because it is a lot of content. It's an hour and a half. It's normally about an hour and 15 minutes worth of content, and then 15 minutes for Q&A. So there's a lot to take in an hour and 15 minutes. So even if you've come multiple times or you've heard me speak in different ways, you still may not remember everything that I talk about. I know what it is. And I think that's a lot of things that freelancers in general don't realize is that no one's going to know what you do better than you. So you got to
Yeah.
keep repeating it. You got to keep saying it so that they know, other people know what you do, and they're crystal clear on that so that they can help refer somebody to you as well.
You know, it's like posting on LinkedIn. Some long time ago, I thought that I have to come up with genuine post with totally new post every month or every 6 months. And if I were creating something very similar, I was like, oh my God, people read me. They will definitely notice the difference. And then I learned this, the real truth that nobody won't even notice if you will repeat the same thing during like the week every day.
Right.
Maybe a few will write, oh, by the way, I think I saw it somewhere. And yeah, you read it yesterday about it yesterday. And so like, yeah. So I feel like it's the most crucial thing that freelancers have to also know about, that you only know what you know. And people, they don't paying too much attention usually. So the more they talk to you, the more they connect with you, the better. And I'm curious, where do you gather audience for this webinar? Where do you gather people for this? Where do you find them?
Yeah, so right now I've been really focusing on LinkedIn. So I do within whoever connections that I have, I do LinkedIn DMs to all of those people. And then anyone that's attended, I reach back out to them and I say, hey, would you be able to invite some people within your network to
Hmm.
attend? And then within different communities that I'm a part of, I'll post there. I don't do post every month, but every once a quarter I might post, or once every 6 months, because I don't want to keep posting it over and over again. But again, the same people may not see it. So if I
Yeah.
do a post every once in a while, you never know who's going to show up.
What happens next? What happens after the webinar? How clients find you, or do you follow up? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, so I offer a free one-on-one coaching session with me so that people can see, again, how do I work with somebody? And that's an opportunity for a lead gen for me and that person to potentially work with me long term from there. Well, not necessarily long term, but the different opportunities and programs that I have. And that's generally the way. And some people are ready to go and they want to work with me right away. And some people don't have the time or they can't invest at the moment. And so then I follow up with them down the road.
Got it. What is the most time consuming thing you must deal with as a freelancer, except for your professional work itself?
Time consuming outside of my professional work or
Yeah, like usually when you're a freelancer, you're wearing so many hats,
hmm.
and your professional focus is just one of those hats. So, what is the most time-consuming thing aside of your professional one?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I really try, one of the things I really try to do is bucket my time. So when I'm not working, that I am doing things that I enjoy doing. So outside of work, I spend a lot of time watching the New York Mets. I really enjoy baseball, and it's a very long season. So that does take up a lot of my time, but it's something that I really enjoy. But I would also say some of the things that I'm just not as good at. So, like for example, my website design, like having to update that and make changes because it's just not my forte per se. So I'm always tweaking that and knowing again, like if it's not perfect, that's okay. It just has to be done. But I always want to keep going back to it to just keep editing it.
Do you have a blog on your website?
I don't. That's another thing that I'm working on is well to try to get a newsletter out that has more content, and it's like my Q1 goal is to make sure that that starts going. My Q4 goal was to get on as many podcasts as I possibly could. So there's a lot
Hey.
of exactly. There's a lot of different angles. But you can, as a freelancer, you can only do so much, especially when you're a solopreneur. There's only so many things that you can do, and that's one of the things that I've really tried to instill in myself is just do what you can right now. You don't have to do everything. Just like pick a thing and do
Mm.
it. So I reached my Q4 goal. My Q1 goal is to start getting more content out there consistently because I still put content out there, but more consistent with that and then it'll be easier for the rest of the year.
How do you prioritize of all those tasks that freelancers has to do, what to start with?
Yeah, so that's a hard thing, but I highly recommend having a coach if you can afford to have one because it helps to have somebody else in your corner. If it's not a coach, it's a mentor. If it's not a mentor, it's just being a part of a community group or people that you can feel comfortable talking with. I find that when I talk through my priorities with somebody else, it makes it
Mm.
easy for me to restructure what I should be working on. Because when you're by yourself, you kind of get stuck in a rut of like, I'm not really sure what to do, or maybe I'm focusing on the wrong things. So just having that person to bounce an idea off of to help get you on the right track, I think is truly helpful. And so I use my coach a lot to help me just stay on track. We may not always agree and I don't always do everything that he says, but for the most part, he's pointing me in the right direction and it's my choice. Like, do I want to run the marathon? Do I want to sprint? Like, am I sprinting for 50 yards and then I'm going to walk the rest of the way? That's my decision, but at least I'm going in a direction.
Hopefully in the right one. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what is the most nerve-wracking thing you must deal with as a freelancer?
I think honestly, it's just reliable income, right? Like, how are you gonna have pay all your bills? Are you gonna, make your numbers for the month, for the quarter, etc. I think that is a big thing as, you're building your business because freelancing, you just never know what's going to be next, and what that's going to look like.
No, I'm always coming back to one of the previous guests. It was Mina who told that as a freelancer, I just got used to uncertainty.
Yeah.
That's how I deal with it. I'm like, how do you deal with uncertainty? I just got used to it. So,
But
so
I would say like the biggest thing that as difficult as that can be, the fact that I can make the hours that I want to work is completely life-changing
yeah,
because when I was working in my past, and I mentioned, I mean, I really was a workaholic. I was working anywhere from 10 hours a day was like a light day to, 16 hours a day, sometimes more. And when I was working in tech, if there was an emergency with some sort of bug that was happening within our product, it could be 2 in the morning and I'm still working. It could be waking up at 6 a.m. and I'm still working. It didn't, the times didn't matter.
yeah.
And now I can sleep soundly through the night and not have to worry about anything.
As a freelancer, do you ever feel professional loneliness?
I think at times, but I've really tried to, especially being and networking is, what I do, is have people around me that I feel like I can go to. So
Yeah.
having a coach is huge. Having communities that I can talk to people in, having a good core group of people that are either in doing similar work, whether they're coaches or not, talking to them if I have a problem, or just other people, even if they're not in this industry, to just bounce ideas off of so that I don't feel like I'm by myself, that there are other people that will support me. And there's more people out there that will support you than you realize.
Yes, and it's so much easier to understand that you are not alone. Even if you are not finding a solution to something, still knowing that you're working on the same challenge with like five other people, you're already like, okay, it can be done. If other people having the same things, it can be done. So it makes
Yeah.
you a little bit more calm, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
If your friend wanted to become a freelancer, what are top three things you'd advise them to consider before doing it?
Great question. I think the number one thing is, well, you mentioned it before, is being okay with uncertainty, that everything isn't going to be perfect. Also, from a financial standpoint, knowing that you may not have reliable income every month, and are you okay with that? So everybody comes from different situations. What is your savings look like? uh, who do you have to support? What does your rent or mortgage look like? What are the things that you actually need? And can you support yourself in that way?
Yeah.
And I think another piece is, do you have an understanding of the problem that you want to solve?
Hmm.
I don't think you have to be perfect at it, but know that what is the problem you're going to solve, and you can keep working towards who are the people that you're going to help to solve that problem. Because we often get stuck. I mean, I was very stuck at the very beginning of who my ideal customer was, and that was really handcuffing me because I was so focused on like trying to figure this out because everyone kept saying, everyone that I talked to, you need to know who your ideal customer is. And I was like, this isn't working for me. And then my coach said to me, Rachel, forget about that. Just whoever's attracted to want to work with you, let's start there and then see where it goes. And I tell you, that was really life changing for me because now I work with all different people. I have clients that are in college all the way to C-suite execs. So I can work with anyone. And I think I always knew that deep down, but I was listening because sometimes you listen to the wrong people or people give you the wrong advice. And it's okay to push back against that as well.
I feel like you have in networking, you have the same basics, but then you are just adjusting to different people's needs.
Exactly. Exactly. Because it's the same through line for everyone. And it's so funny how A college student needs the exact same thing as a C-suite exec, even though that C-suite exec has probably been working for longer than the college student's been alive, but they still, struggle with the same things.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get it. And Rachel, I wish to have the sky as a limit, but time is a limit. So the final question, if you were starting freelancing today, what is one thing you would have done differently?
Mm. That's another great question. Um, I really think that it was what I just said is not focusing on my ideal customer and
Mm,
just working on getting a product or a service out there that I felt good about and seeing who would be attracted to it versus trying to hone in on that ideal client. And I think so, I don't know that that necessarily works for everybody, but based upon what I'm doing, I think it does work. So, for example, if someone's doing website design, you could do website design for anyone. You may then niche down and say, oh, I'm only going to do website design for um, those that are coaches, or I'm only going
mm,
to do a website design for landscape companies. I don't know. Like you can niche down after the fact, but just starting with something, I think
yeah,
is better than not doing anything at all.
yeah, totally. Just build it, they will come, hopefully.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, Rachel, thank you so much for having this open conversation and for sharing your experience.
Thanks, Yuri. It's fun. Thanks for having me.
And thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, hit the like button, 5 stars, and share it with your friend. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.